dope in the trash can. These niggas been copping out this smoke, we done passed that. I'm tired of that hoe wanna hear her friend because I ass fat. My bro told him I'm crack, I don't know why he did. Wish I was right there on that drill, I ain't seen my dog in a minute. You ain't gotta ask me to switch the Glock, just know that
Sinclair flying with her partner in the Afghan airspace. And before they knew it, a big-ass missile locks on their location and they try to evade it as much as possible, but they both end up ejecting from their jets. The insurgents that shot them down see them landing with their parachutes and go to their area. Sinclair's partner is shot when he tries to take down some of the insurgents, but Sinclair, the very accurate marksman, takes out most of the insurgents and she manages to get away from the hot zone. So she starts making her way through the Afghan desert. She tries to call for help but nobody answers, but unfortunately the Afghan insurgents, who know the territory so well, have been tracking her all along. And before she knew it, they've cornered her into this bizarre area where there was a Russian bunker. For a second there, she held her own with her AK-47, but this guy had a bazooka. And even though he missed her, she was not waiting for him to reload, and the bazooka blew open the door to the bunker, and since it was her only way out, she decided to get inside the bunker to hide. The bunker isn't really what you would imagine. It's not small at all. It's actually a big-ass bunker with like tunnels and stuff. And Sinclair gets inside and tries to navigate through it, but everything was written in Russian and the place really gave off a creepy vibe. As she was going through the facility, she finds this photographic recording device which she takes, and meanwhile, as Sinclair was taking her tour, the insurgents have also made their way inside the bunker, you know, to kill her. And once they go down the tunnels and they start looking for Sinclair, they make it to a room where inside it looked like there were men floating in a vat full of some liquid. Even the insurgents were like, what the F, jeez. And as they were in awe of what they were witnessing, Sinclair uses the opportunity to ambush them and another firefight ensues. But what nobody really noticed was that during the firefight, a bunch of bullets blew up one of the vats and whatever it was that was inside came out. And this guy thought whatever this thing is, it's probably dead, I'm gonna cover it up with a piece of plastic. But he was wrong, it's alive, it's a monster, and it kills him. And just when Sinclair thought that she made it out, as the monster that was inside the bunker takes out the insurgents one by one of the soldiers catches Kate by the foot, but before he does anything to Sinclair, the monster takes off his face. Ugh, what a sight. And as soon as she made it out, Sinclair saw the monster very clearly, and she was incredibly terrified and physically injured, and was not ready to face the driver of the insurgents who was pointing a gun at her. But she was lucky enough that the driver himself got really creeped out by what he saw, and he just ran away. After the driver ran away, Kate gives herself an adrenaline shot, and then makes her way through the Afghan desert yet again. And oh yeah, she does actually run into some help, or should I say help runs into her, as this big-ass Hummer car operated by Americans literally crashes into her. And why do I say Americans? Well, that is because Kate is actually British, and she was on a joint operation with the Americans. So as soon as the Americans make sure that they didn't actually kill her and check her dog tag, they take her with them when they find out that she's actually a captain and on their side. So they drive her to their quote-unquote base, which happens to be a really shitty place where they just hang out. And there she meets Finch, who tells her that they can't really help her evacuate, as they're still low on resources and they have a lot of responsibility in the area. Kate tells Finch what she saw in the bunker and to go investigate it with some of his men, but he tells her that he's not gonna risk anyone. And you guys remember that guy that just ran away instead of just shooting Sinclair? Yeah, apparently they found him wandering in the desert and they brought him back to their base. Finch also confiscates the device that Kate took from that bunker and says that he'll hold on to it until he talks to his superiors. After getting really pissed off by Finch, Sinclair notices that this is not an ordinary base, as the soldiers are a bit odd, and she asks Hook what's up, and he tells her that most of these soldiers are rejects that the military doesn't want, and that's why they were assigned this base. Lafayette happens to be a kleptomaniac that snatches everything that she can find. That guy got discharged because he shot somebody in the foot, and the guy with the dumbbell knocked up 2 of the general's daughters. I don't know how he managed to do that. And Finch was thrown under the bus by his superiors when he was told to back out of an operation, and he didn't. And Hook was the person who was under Finch at the time, and they lost 2 men from their platoon. So basically, the base is a combination of military rejects. In a bit, Sinclair goes to the very small tent clinic to get patched up, and she describes what she saw at the bunker to some of the soldiers. Because of her photographic memory, or is it called eidetic memory? I really don't know which term is right. But anyways, because of her super good memory, she manages to write down something that she saw in the bunker, and that driver that was caught was also in the tent, and apparently he speaks both English and Russian, and he tells them that what she wrote says do not open. The driver, whose name happens to be Kabir, corroborates Kate's story and tells them that whatever it was that she encountered inside the bunker was not human. And later that night, as the soldiers were patrolling, they were creeped out by the story, and they were very cautious, but none of that mattered, as the monster that was inside one of those vats makes it to the base. The monster, or should I say monsters, start taking out the soldiers one by one. It's nighttime, they can't see shit. Even though they do have night vision goggles, the monster was super fast, and it was also almost impossible to kill. One of these monsters gets inside the tent where Sinclair and Kabir were staying, and it almost got Sinclair before Kabir cut off its tongue, I assume, with a machete. But none of this really mattered, as the monsters were very fast and strong, and the soldiers were outnumbered. They hold together at the trenches, and Hook instructs Lafayette and the rest of the soldiers to fall back to the armory, while he and the others go to save Finch. Lafayette and the rest of the soldiers find out that the armory is actually empty. Well, not really, it actually had toilet paper, but they can't really use that to fight monsters. And considering the fact that they don't have a lot of ammo and they don't have anywhere else to go, everyone who survived the attack gets inside the armory and locks themselves. So come daytime, they get out of the armory, and they find out that the soldiers that were killed were taken away by the monsters. And lucky for them, there was one monster that they killed that was just left there, and they take the body inside their tent and they try to figure out just what's going on. Hook instructs Wilkes, who happens to be a doctor, to cut open the monster and figure out what this thing is. And after a really grotesque scene of cutting open the monster's body, Wilkes discovers that the internal organs of this thing is actually human. And as everybody was incredibly confused as to how a human being looks like that, Finch wakes up and explains everything. Apparently, decades ago, there was something that landed from outer space around that area, and the Russians discovered it first and found it to be an alien spacecraft. And the Soviets at the time managed to fuse human DNA with alien DNA, and that is how you have this thing. And it's because the spaceship landed near Afghanistan that the Russians made up a bunch of reasons to invade Afghanistan, as the Soviets wanted the alien technology all for themselves. And you know how we, the audience, and everybody in this tent thinks that this monster is dead? Apparently it wasn't, and it tries to kill everyone, especially Sinclair, before Finch blows himself and the monster to bits with a grenade. If you're asking yourselves, why don't they just get the hell out of there? Well, the area that they're in is actually surrounded by insurgents, and even if they try to get out, they don't have enough weapons and enough artillery to get out of the region without getting killed. So, they make a plan to go back to the bunker, blow it to bits, and wait for backup to arrive at the base with some equipment. They didn't really have a lot of ammunition left, but they had some C4 and a bunch of clips. But their plan goes horribly wrong when Hook is pulled down into the tunnels by one of the monsters. And to save him, everyone except for Wilkes goes down to the bunker, and it is then that they discover the giant alien that the Soviets used to merge its DNA with human beings. And as expected, a bunch of the soldiers die. Lafayette's anger gets the better of her and she gets eaten by the alien. Wilkes, who was outside and was supposed to pull their elevator with his car, gets ambushed by the insurgents, and to top things off, their radio channel from HQ comes on, informing them to evacuate the area in 20 minutes, as there was an incoming attack that was about to decimate the entire sector. And the insurgents finally catch up to Wilkes, and just before they detach his head from his body and put it on YouTube, Hook and Kate manage to get out of the bunker using the elevator as a pulley, and they manage to save Wilkes, take out the rest of the insurgents, and drive away using their car, before the US military covers its ass by nuking the entire area.